That's.
Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elseworlds Exchange. I'm Sal.
And I'm Joel.
Today we're going to talk about What If Comics. We're not going to talk about Elseworlds books, even though that is our namesake. That's going to be relegated to a whole separate episode. Did we do that yet?
No, I don't. I think that's one of our, in case of emergency, break glass and do an Elseworld on Elseworlds.
Exactly. So we will do an Elseworlds Exchange on the Elseworlds titles, but it's really different. From I've always likened the Elseworlds to being like DC's What If, but it's not entirely accurate because while Elseworlds are more like evergreen, what if Batman were Green Lantern? What if Batman were Superman? What if Superman were Batman? What if Superman grew up in the 1800s? That kind of like big idea. What if was more like, what if in issue 604 this one thing that we all know happened, or maybe you didn't because you don't read all the comics ever, that thing that happened didn't happen.
They're very particular, aren't they? And as I went back through my own long boxes and looking through it online, I'm like, Jesus Christ, some of these are ridiculously specific. Like, what if the Avengers fought in the Kree Skull War, but without Rick Jones?
Right, which, like, is basically the same thing, except that he was a weird plot device.
Yep.
What if Captain America were revived today? And by today, of course, we mean 1992. That kind of thing. It's ridiculous.
That's really funny. What if Captain America was resurrected today? Feels like they do that every 10 years. They'll retell his origin and move the clock up.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember just one of my gripes with Civil War I from Miller was just like, people being like, Captain America, it's not 1945 anymore. And I'm like, motherfucker's been alive for 20 years. Like, he's been awake for 20 years. Like, he knows how to use a cell phone.
It's funny, too, and I'm sure you recognize this, too, because I tried to do a whole little side thing here. I'm like, ooh, what are some what-ifs I'd like to see? Many of them have A, already happened, or B, happened in different side universes, like the Ultimate Universe or the Spider-Gwen universe.
Right. That's true. But I have noticed that what-if books, over time, have morphed into the Elseworlds model, where it went from, like, what if this one specific thing didn't happen in this one very particular episode or issue? Instead, it was, what if Spider-Man was Punisher? What if Spider-Man was Captain America? What if Spider-Man insert reason to use Spider-Man because he's the what-if equivalent of the Elseworlds Batman?
He really is. He gets around that Peter Parker, doesn't he?
First friggin' issue, what if Spider-Man were on the Fantastic Four? The answer to that question is they changed the number to 5. Kyle McCurdy in the Super Chat says, hi, hello. Mr. Roboto, is Canada the New Jersey Elseworlds? Kinda. Like, what if New Jersey was a country?
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, and everybody was, like, more friendly? Kind of. Because we both could produce really funny people.
It's true.
Who are trying to, like, outgrow our origins, our humble origins. So, so we're just going to talk about a couple of our favorites, a couple of, like, key what-if books, and then maybe pitch a few of our own.
Yeah.
And this is all inspired by the fact that Marvel, for no reason whatsoever, decided to roll out with, like, the new what-ifs they're going to put out in October.
Yep, just kind of apropos of nothing. But you know what? I like stuff like that, just out of the blue. Like, hey, bet you weren't expecting this, but here you go.
Agreed. Mod King Mopey, what if we resold old stories no one read? Yeah, exactly. So,
what indeed?
What was it? They're releasing some books coming out. What if Spider-Man were Punisher? What if Flash Thompson were Spider-Man? What if
excited for that one?
Yeah. What if Magic were Sorcerer Supreme? I guess.
Yeah, which almost came close to happening. I think in the Bendis years or a little after, Magic was like his apprentice.
Yeah. And what if Ghost Rider? I don't know what the hell the thing is.
No, I don't know who that's supposed to be either. It's someone with a guitar. Who plays guitar?
I don't know. It's obvious. I mean, it's obviously the Robbie Ray is like Ghost Rider, which means that I guess Eli Morrow's evil spirit will inhabit somebody else or something.
Who took guitar lessons.
So if you keep like letting Jason Aaron tell Ghost Rider stories, then like no one will ever know the true origin of Robbie Ray.
No, it's true. And somewhere poor Felipe Smith is pulling out his fucking hair somewhere.
Yeah. And by the way, before we forget, also the Terror of Death. I prefer What If over Elseworlds. Fair enough. I don't. I find that it's easier to make a list of favorite What If books because there's so many What If books.
There really are.
So many of them are goddamn terrible.
And yet they're short, though. At least What Ifs always stay short, where Elseworlds sometimes go a little longer.
Yeah, they're forgivably brief, and it's mostly because they explore the concept and then they go, "Oh crap, that there's nowhere for this to go." End
Guess
it.
we're done.
Yeah. Comic Goblin, it's 4. It's too damn early o'clock for you, but you guys make it easier to get up in the morning. Have a great day, fellas. You too, buddy. Sorry you have to get up so early. That blows.
Indeed.
Mod King Moby, what if Dazzler founded the Avengers in the 80s?
That'd be funny.
Cool. I don't know how she would even get their phone number, but because she'd be like, "Hi, Avengers," and in the 80s they'd be like, "Hello, what do you want?" She's like, "I'm Dazzler," and they're like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I've got dazzle powers.
I can turn sound into magic."
Not quite Comic Book Girl 19 is my favorite fan.
Yeah, really. Oh, well, in that case, even though she wouldn't be born yet in the 80s.
No, she was. So,
I don't know how old she is.
Older than she acts. So, what was it? Favorite What If books. Oh, before we jump into them, I also wanted to say, what if Flash Thompson were Spider-Man? By the way, they did it already.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. A lot of these.
They did it already in a big bad way, too. I think it was called What If, oh, crap. Oh, Tiffany says she likes my haircut. Thank you very much, Tiffany. I got a haircut today.
I noticed, and you got a new set behind you, too.
I did, yeah. We're it's Night of the Improv here on Elseworlds Exchange.
You beat me to it. I was going to say, live from the 90s Comedy Club.
It's ComicPOP Live! A piece of toast!
Sal and Piece of Toast really don't like each other backstage. Completely different people.
Apparently we have some demons. But yeah, it was called something like "What if Peter Parker had to destroy Spider-Man?" And basically I want to toss it out there because I know a lot of people are going to buy that "What if Flash Thompson was Spider-Man" story, and it's like, so I want to see what the parallels are. But in that one, Flash Thompson is shows up because Peter Parker is adjacent to a chick that Flash Thompson is seeing on the side at the science exhibit.
Obviously.
And so the spider, he pushes Peter out of the way, and he gets bit by the spider. He gets spider powers, but because he's still an adolescent douche nozzle, he is telling the... he uses his, newfound powers to bully Peter into, helping him become Spider-Man.
Hey, nerd, make me a superhero, nerd.
Yeah, so, Peter makes him the spider suit, and, Peter is his, lackey, and Flash is basically a performer, and then he becomes a douche, and he gets really aggressive, and then Peter decides he's had enough, and so he decides he's gonna try and defeat him, and so Peter uses his own intelligence to build kind of a Doc Ock 8-arm suit, and because Flash Thompson thinks that Spider-Man is a silly name, so he goes by the Spider.
Of course.
So when Peter decides to make his there was a Spider-Man sidekick character who was this fat nerdy fanboy type person who had a spider suit, and it's basically that but for Peter Parker. And so Peter builds this, dons the name Spider-Man, but he's just Peter Parker in a cool mech suit.
Right.
And he uses it to fight Flash Thompson, and then he defeats him. And Reed Richards develops a serum that takes away Flash Thompson's spider powers and reverse engineers it, and then says, "Oh, I actually can give you his spider powers if you want them." And Peter Parker's like, "No thanks," pours it down the drain and says "I'm a better Spider-Man than he ever was." And so and the Daily Bugle likes him because he doesn't wear a mask, and he's just home local boy, makes good, builds a cool suit, fights evil, and shows his face, and and then it shows a kind of menagerie of images of this maskless Spider-Man defeating all his rogues but using his technology and brain. It's really weird.
Sounds weird, but also kind of cool.
Yeah, and you're like, well, he wouldn't have been invited to go to the Secret Wars, and so he wouldn't have gotten the Venom symbiote, but I see Venom's in here, so whatever.
So I guess that happened anyway. Yeah, when you really start to think of the ripple effect of some of these.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. There's a great one from, I think, the 70s. Maybe it was the early 80s, which was, what if Spider-Man's clone had survived?
Yes, I remember that one.
Which is, hilarious when I picked it up when the Clone Saga was happening.
In retrospect now. Oh, yeah, what if he lived? What if he never went away?
Yeah, and I liked it. It was actually... Because What If as a title... First, I guess we should talk about What If as a title really quick. For me, I don't know this for a fact, so I'm not going to say this was exactly what happened. But I want to say that What If was basically a testing ground for new writers.
Oh, yeah.
And new artists, where they were
believe it.
We want to see if you can make a monthly book, but we also don't want to give you more than one book, and we don't want you to screw up a title that actually like matters. So draw this who gives a shit story that doesn't matter and has no continuity, but it also involves a few key characters, so we can see if you can consistently draw, Spider-Man or any number of like human-looking characters, and also if you can craft a decent story. I mean, that's how, Dan Slott made his bones. He wrote, What If Doctor Doom Became Sorcerer Supreme? And it's not bad. It's actually kind of fun. And it's a little better than most of the really terrible ones, which are numerous and plentiful. But but What If was a title that also refused to die. Started out in the 70s. It was a neat idea. And they just Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. Then when Civil War comes around, they start doing all those one-shots. And now they're resurrecting the one-shots again, making all kinds of What If books. And that was, I think, the beginning. When they started doing the one-shots, they were like, I guess we can do more broad titles. And they dropped the whole, what if this very specific thing happened in this one specific story from 20 years ago? It was more like, what if Annihilation? What if Civil War?
Yeah, for all the big events.
Yeah, what if Siege? And some of them are really cool, and some of them are more in line with what I remember What If to be.
I think I remember, was it the last What If they did? What if Avengers versus X-Men? What if Magneto actually started acting competently in the beginning and killed most of them at the beginning of the fight?
Exactly. Which, if you ever want to see your favorite characters die in horrific ways, usually there's a What If that will give you that satisfaction.
Palmiotti wrote that one, if I do recall.
Yeah, no, when What If became cachet, or when it was not a regularly monthly title, real writers were like, I want to do one.
Yeah.
In fact, Bendis has written a number of What If titles about his own books or about other people's books. What If Karen Page Lived is written by Brian Michael Bendis, and it fucks with the Kevin Smith story, but it also massages his own ego because they dropped because What If books are great because it was always it had been for a very long time bookended by the Watcher. The Watcher shows up and he says, "Hello, I'm the chronicler of everything." It's how I even knew who the Watcher was. It took me a long time before I got to the coming of Galactus and stuff. So my introduction to Uatu, the Earth's Watcher, was this bald, sometimes really fat old man or sometimes thin baby-headed dude.
Yep.
And so the Watcher would show up and he's like, I'm the chronicler, I'm doomed only to watch, but sometimes I pay attention to what might have happened instead of what actually happened, and here's one of those stories.
Do you think he'll be back for these new What Ifs, or do you think they'll get the Unseen, make him do that?
I think someone will do an Unseen reference, but when they started to put high profile creators on the books, they dropped the Watcher and they basically just turned them into in the What If Karen Page Lived, it's just Bendis sitting at a bar being like, but what if Karen Page Lived? It's just a very tongue-in-cheek Grant Morrisonian fourth wall breaking the authors in the story kind of thing, and it's it doesn't quite work, but it also is funny because it betrays Bendis's writing style, because the running commentary throughout the book is this narration that is normally done by the protagonist, which is usually Daredevil or Jessica Jones or Luke Cage or Iron Man. They all sound exactly the same, and they're all just Bendis. Also, I think What If Karen Page Lived is 18 pages or something. It's the shortest Bendis book ever. But he also did another one, What If Jessica Jones, and or What If Alias. And then that one, basically, after the Avengers beat the tar out of her for being controlled by Purple Man and attacking them, in the original continuity she tells them to screw themselves, but in this continuity she says okay, I'm gonna forgive you. I'm gonna
oh, and her life is 100 times better, isn't it?
Oh, she ends up noticing that Wanda's freaking out in Avengers Mansion, so she because she's the SHIELD liaison, they basically say, we have no oversight, we want you to be in charge of taking care of or keeping us grounded and watching our backs. So she's at Avengers Mansion just checking boxes, and she sees Wanda in a room talking to invisible babies, and she's like, Wanda's freaking out, everybody, somebody
maybe get on this.
And so they immediately deal with her, so House of M never happens. and like she and Cap start like talking to each other, and ultimately like she and Cap bang, and then they get married, and then she just ends up happier than she's ever been, and you're like, oh my god. How depressing.
There but for the grace go you, Jess.
Yeah. Really quick, I want to address the super chats. Mr. Giggles, hey guys, hi Tiff. Tiffany was in the chat before. Coke Zero all day, every day, indeed. Mr. Comic Goblin, I would really love to see a what if the Ultimate Universe destroyed Earth 616 in the incursion, and the Ultimate Universe continue with the weight of that. I love that idea.
Feels like something Bendis would have written if he stayed.
I feel like it's definitely got to be in a drawer somewhere. Pad Parja, sorry about that. My favorite is Marvel Team Up number 137, What If Aunt May and Franklin Richards versus Galactus. It's a great joke. One of my favorites is What If No One Was Watching The Watcher, and it's like just a bunch of like stupid editorial jokes, just tossing out these like really, really dumb jokes. That
I like when they get inside baseball.
Yeah. Tony Elizonda, What If the Inhumans Were Cool? Again, great book. I think if anyone was going to write it, it'd probably be Charles Soule. DM0M0, what are there some what ifs that came into continuity? That's a great question.
A whole bunch.
What kinds?
One I was working on. I thought I was so smart for coming up with this, only to find out that it actually kind of happened. What if the Punisher's family was never killed? Again, that happened in the Gwenpool universe. He became a cop, and then they kind of recycled that too for the Ultimate universe, where he became a cop again to fight crime.
Yeah. And in that regard, I feel like that's kind of more like following the natural progression of the character, or at least people's understanding of him, as opposed to somebody who like read that book and went like, I'm going to do the what if and make it happen. I feel like the nature of what if lends itself to repetition and like accidental copying. You know, it's not like they had that idea or they stole that idea. It's more like, oh, as it turns out, like this is, you know, this is where you would go with this idea.
They also did an X-Men one that I quite enjoyed that kind of ended up happening, but in a weird way. It's like, what if Professor X and Kane Marco switched places? So what if Professor X became the Juggernaut and Juggernaut became nothing? So basically he became Onslaught years before Onslaught was a thing. Yeah,
that's actually not a bad idea. And then, in fact, Juggernaut losing the Crystal of Cyttorak is part of Onslaught's development.
Yeah.
Like, Professor X pulls it out of his chest. It's actually like kind of
prophetic.
Prophetic, yeah. The Terror of Death. Do not talk about the Brian Michael Bendis. I'm still pissed at him. Yep, Superman is hot garbage. And Mr. Roboto, what if the Fantastic Four became Galactus' Herald? I like that idea. I don't know if I've ever seen that one. If it exists, I'll have to read it. If it doesn't, that would be cool to see.
You feel like it had to have. Like, I had another one I wanted to pitch. What if Daredevil left New York with Stick in the Frank Miller story like he was supposed to, joined the chase, destroyed the Hand? Like, did that happen? I feel like that has to have been a one.
No, I don't think that's a book.
Okay, that's my pitch then.
That's a great one. That's a great pitch. Of course, we all know what Tevye Smolka's favorite what if issue is. It's the debut of Mayday Parker. My favorite what if is Spider-Girl. Yeah, that was another one that like became real in as much as what if Tom DeFalco is like, what if we actually got a chance to actually tell the story about like about Pete and Mary Jane having the kid, and it wound up becoming like such a sensation and such a like obviously developed idea that they spun it into its own whole imprint, AMC2 universe. Which is kind of unprecedented, and it's never like the last time it happened was Spider-Gwen. It was just, hey, what if this neat idea, and then they spun it into a whole other universe.
Yeah, it was filled with a lot of interesting what ifs. What if Daredevil had become the Kingpin and stayed that way? What if Ben Grimm never went to space and became a cop?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I was rereading an amalgam book called Assassins, where it's Slade Murdoch and Selena, who gives a shit, and they were fighting against a combination of the Riddler and the Kingpin.
Big question, right?
Big question. It's gotta be the worst idea, but then again, that's just the kind of eloquence I come to expect from D.G. Chichester. But I was so funny. I was reading that and I'm like, God damn it! But your talk of Kingpin reminded me of the Big Question. And how,
big question.
I don't even know what the hell. The big question is, what the hell, guys?
And I bet he felt so clever writing that. The
Right?
big question.
Actually, no. You know what got me into it was actually I was going through some old Wizards and I found an interview about Amalgam from Chichester talking about, or no, somebody else talking about the big question, talking about what a crappy idea that was, but that like there was practically no oversight, so we could just do whatever. Pad Pardsha, sorry. My pitch: what if Iron Man got a new symbiote, or a new symbiote? Like, what if Iron Man got a symbiote?
Right, which they
cool.
kind of did in Infamous Iron Man because his suit was made of symbiote like genes as well, so it was alive and could come onto him and stuff. So they basically did that.
Yeah, and if they ever did it again, like as a what if book, it'd be cool because the Iron Man and Secret Wars was Jim Rhodes, so you get a cool Jim Rhodes story out of the deal.
Absolutely.
And the Terror of Death, what if Vulcan stayed on Earth instead of going into space? He probably would have annoyed readers there too.
No matter where
By
he
being
went.
a disappointment.
Another idea that they played with and eventually did more than once, I'm pretty sure. What if Hulk was always as smart as Banner?
Right. Yeah. The Hulk lends himself to a lot of what ifs because usually the only scenario you could have ended the Hulk with was, what if he's not the Hulk anymore? What if he's always the Hulk?
What if someone else was the Hulk?
Well, later on, it was like, well, what if somebody else is the Hulk? But there are a ton of Hulk what if books. The one that stands out to me was this weird period when what if was just unofficially determined to be a horror series.
Oh.
They just went, and then they called it like, what if the dark corner of the Marvel Universe? It's really like an underscore that says something like that. But it was so weird where it's like, what the crap are you doing? And there's one where it's Spider-Man, basically that him getting bit by the spider turns him into, like, slowly over time he starts to morph into a horrible spider monster.
Oh, like the Fly, and like he starts killing people.
Fly. And then like,
it's really creepy. I think I read that one.
It's great. And then his wife Gwen Stacy just has to murder him or something. And then there's a Hulk one where it's like, what if the Hulk was, the idea is basically that like the gamma bomb takes his sensitive, tortured, abused self and turns that into a kind of like energy being who is like a manifestation of his insecurities, but like the rage monster is Bruce Banner. So like he is a super abusive douchebag who gaslights Betty and just makes her into like an abused shut-in. And
so he becomes his own father.
Yes, and the story ends with a really like dark note that says this story deals with domestic abuse, and domestic abuse is a very real and dangerous thing. And if you know anyone with it, call this phone number. I'm like, whoa, what the hell just happened? I wanted to read a Hulk book. But that being said, I was really like, I thinking back on it now, I'm like, that's really cool that they did that. But yeah, there was a weird period or a weird chapter in What If history, like where they were like, if we're gonna do a What If, it has to go dark. It always has to be that it has a down ending, and it has to be like misery incarnate. They eventually walked that back a little bit over time. Tales from Island Z. What if Stan Lee became a best-selling author?
Ooh, the world would be very different and probably not as cool.
Yeah, if he had become like the children's author he pretended to be before comics became a thing. Keenan Meyer, what if Tom King Batman was good?
What a world that would be.
Fired. Mind Freak 555 Jane Foster Thor came from What If and Agents of Atlas from What If the Avengers were formed in the 50s. Yeah, there was literally a What If book called What If Jane Foster Were Thor.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, and it's basically just a blonde Thor. Or a blonde female Thor. I'm like, yep. Matt Young, what if the ComicPOP crew had the powers of the Fantastic Four? I can tell you this, we wouldn't be superheroes.
Who gets what power is the real question.
Right? I feel like Ethan would be Mr. Fantastic, Ben would be the Human Torch, Tiffany would be the Invisible Woman, and I'd be the Thing. But I'd want to mix it up a little bit, so, let us know in the comments down below who
should have which power.
I resent the idea of making Tiffany Invisible Woman because I always make fun of the Invisible Woman as like,
I know.
You think about that horrible 90s theme song for the anime show where it's like Reed Richards is elastic, and then like Sue, the line for Sue is Sue can fade from sight.
Boy, does she.
Which is just like, Sue can go away.
Get out of here, Sue.
Yeah, Sue can make some sandwiches.
Oh,
it's just depressing. So I don't want to like relegate.
Plus, plus you're not a hack writer, so you don't want to make Tiff the Invisible Woman just because she's the girl one.
Exactly. But I also think like she's kind of like the unsung hero of the team, so she kind of is the Invisible Woman.
Which is what Sue is supposed to be.
Right. Will I Am Golden, what if the Super Soldier Serum turned Steve into the Hulk? That'd be dope. Never seen that.
There's a lot of cool stuff, what ifs with the Super Soldier Serum and who gets it or who joined Weapon X or who could have.
Oh, yeah. The Terror of Death. Wasn't Spider-Verse a collection of what if stories?
Yeah, kind of. When you break it down, they were alternate universes, but they might as well have been.
Exactly. Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse, or whatever the hell it was called, like the title that debuted Spider-Gwen and stuff. It was very much that. I mean, the what if books are basically just multiversity, but with no characters in them. And then I remember like when Exiles came out, I'm like, sweet, we're gonna go to all the what if books, and they just started making up their own. I'm like, come use a couple of these.
You might as well, right?
I mean, Spider-Verse did, however, pluck a few of those characters from the What If books. For instance, it was kind of like a recent one from, I think, 10 years ago, the Spider-Man versus Wolverine story. They did that one.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Spider-Man basically became like an assassin, and he got this cool like assassin's Spider-Man suit. And that one shows up. I think he gets killed.
He does. They kill a couple. There's also the news strip Spider-Man, which might as well be a what if. What if Spider-Man was a news strip and he gets killed?
Totally. And Mr. Roboto saying, what if Aunt May, Herald of Galactus, and Second Spider-Man? Yeah. No, we mentioned her, and god damn it. What a weird and silly world comics are.
Sure is. It's funny. One, I'm surprised they never tried to pitch, probably because they were trying to distance themselves from the story by the time it was all over. Although I think they did do like a parody version of it.
Yeah.
And it would be like, what if Secret Empire never ended? What if it kept going? And in fact, as far as we could tell from leaks, they actually wanted to keep pushing it a little longer.
I feel like they should have. I mean, like, Secret Invasion ended way too soon. And just put everything back to the way that like they wanted them to. It did usher Dark Reign, which was awesome. But I kind of really wish they had like pushed it a little more. Like all those teasers about like get used to Skrulls being here and like kind of like changing the whole world and making an alienation kind of story. Way more interesting than not doing it.
Yeah.
And I think I would have had more respect for them if Secret Empire just kept going. But it was so accelerated. I don't know if I was a big fan.
It was.
Yeah. So, you got that.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of those. Dark Reign had a what if. Siege had a what if. There's a ton of like recent what ifs where you're like, whoa, like, I mean, what was it? I was thinking about one recently where what if Spider-Man had not married Mary Jane? Like, yeah, well, we saw that one.
We've been living it for a decade.
What if Jean Grey didn't die?
Ah, yes.
What if Jean Grey actually did die? Is the real question.
And stayed dead for a long period of time.
Yeah. What was it? Preston Bryant. I love that Assassin Spider-Man suit. I agree.
It's really nice.
He's in one of the Spider books, like one of the Spider-Geddon books. But I was like, and he died, so I don't think he should be. But I thought I saw it somewhere.
I hope that suit shows up in the video game.
Yeah. Oh, every Spider-Man suit ever should be in every video. Like should be in the video game.
And they'll charge it to you for $1.99.
Yeah. Terror of Death. Secret Invasion could have fixed Hank Pym. I've always submitted it should have. You could literally just been like, it was a Skrull the whole time. There's nothing you did with Hank Pym that you couldn't just roll back by being like, he was a Skrull since, like, the Wasp was just, or not the Wasp, Yellow Jacket was just Hank Pym being a sleeper Skrull who was freaking out.
Did they ever do a what if Hank didn't hit his wife story?
No, and they really should have. If they did, it was like incidental. Like, what if something else happened and it had a ripple effect? But like, they really should do that, or at the very least, like, they should reveal that he really was a Skrull the whole time. Just fix it.
Or something.
Just end it. Nathan Berg helping us out in the super chat. Thank you very much. What was it? I was thinking about a couple other ones that, like, I remember being introduced to Marvel events as a result of What If. Like stories that I'd never heard of or never would have been able to collect because back when they came out, they didn't have them in any collection. You have to go back and find them in back issues bins. I've referenced this a number of times. From 91's What If Marvel superheroes lost Atlantis attacks? And I'm like, first of all, what's Atlantis attacks? And then it's like, oh, well, everyone becomes serpent people, and like Spider-Man is cruelly murdered by Grey Hulk and stuff, and then everyone is just devoured by serpents and they take over, and you're like, what the crap even happened? I didn't realize there was that much. The stakes were this big, and then it's like, yeah, no, they were, and you know why they were that big? Because Jim Valentino, creator of Shadowhawk, wrote that friggin' story.
Yeah, you did.
What was it? Paparadasha?
Chad had a good pitch there. What if Superior?
Oh, good.
I was gonna say, Chad had a good one there. Got me thinking. What if Superior Spider-Man never stopped? What if Ock just stayed in the body?
That's like a no-brainer. I'm shocked that isn't a thing.
Because you figure the only reason he quit was so they could save Anne Marie. Anne Marie would die, but he would stay in the body.
Right, exactly. It was like when they did. I was just thinking about the when I mentioned earlier the what if Karen Page had lived, like what if Bullseye didn't kill her. Basically, Daredevil just kills the Kingpin because he's the one who sold Mysterio the information about his secret identity.
Yeah.
And then Matt Murdock gets arrested, and his identity is revealed, and then Karen Page dies of a drug overdose.
Oh.
So you're like, the answer is she still would have, but just different. And it's like, fuck you, Bendis.
The answer is everyone would have been sad.
Yeah. Still, Pad Pardasha says, what if Spider-Man and comics aged in real time?
Ooh.
They did. I think it was one of the last What If books in chronology. They did like What If the Next Generation, and it was about like what if nobody came home from Secret Wars.
Oh.
And so like all the Marvel superheroes basically just paired off, had kids. Those kids are raised on Battleworld, and most of them die. And it was the inspiration for that Avengers Next Avengers animated movie. But yeah, like those characters aged, and it made sense. I'd love to see that.
Speaking of outside the box pitches, here's one that just came to me right now. What if the actors from the MCU movies woke up tomorrow and had the powers of their characters? Like, what if Chris Evans had super soldier serum and Robert Downey Jr. actually had a working set of Iron Man armor?
I'd like to see them consult the people, like, because Chris Evans has a like serious like social anxiety or whatever.
Yeah,
I could imagine him being like, "Oh no, I have to be Captain America for real now." It's already a crippling responsibility to like visit children's wards of hospitals as Captain America and like try and make them feel good even though they're dying. Like to actually be responsible for trying to save people being Captain America, it would be terrifying.
It'd be a little much, but it might be fun to see him, Chris Hemsworth be like, all right, I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a voice though. I'm going to still be Australian.
Yeah, I'm going to still be Australian. Nah, Thor's Australian now. You got to deal with it.
Yeah. Aaron Inatelli says, what if Marvel Editorial didn't fuck Spider-Man? Agreed. They did one, it was kind of like a what if book called like 101 Ways to End the Clone Saga.
Ah, yes.
And that one was kind of like a bunch of what ifs about like Editorial being in the way of Spider-Man, so we're almost there. And Willow I Am Golden, what if Uncle Ben was a founding member of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see, like, most of my what if pitches are basically just like, what if they didn't take this really good idea and then just stop doing it? What if they kept it going? Like, Spider-Man living in Avengers Tower with Aunt May, who knows who he is, cohabitating with Captain America. There should have been a lot more Steve Rogers Aunt May interactions.
Yeah.
And it was sorely lacking. And I remember, like, when they announced that Spider-Man was going to move into the Avengers Mansion, I emailed Joe Quesada and I was like, this means that Aunt May and Steve Rogers are going to, like, actually talk and get to know each other? And he said something like, I think you see where we're going with this. And I was like, this is great. And then they never really went that far with it. They went enough. They did it a little bit, but not enough. It's like, what if they actually pursued the ideas that were so good that it was worth doing? Mr. Roboto, what if Wonder Man was the last official Avenger? I like the implication of that, where it's like, like there are no more Avengers, or we don't take any more members, or Wonder Man's the founder. There's a lot of neat ideas there. Hector Esparza, what if Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were Magneto's kids? Lol. You won't have to wait. You won't have to wait too long for that one. That one's gonna be what if we never actually retconned it?
Yeah, or what if we just retconned it back quickly?
And they will. Pad Pardasha, sorry. What if Aunt May was killed instead of Uncle Ben? They did that one.
Did they?
I think it was called What If Uncle Ben had died or lived instead of Aunt May. And basically the idea is Peter, because it was Aunt May and it was like an old frail woman who was killed, Peter kills the burglar. And then Ben goes to stop him, and to save Peter from a jail sentence, he basically admits to killing the burglar instead.
Oh,
so
shit.
Uncle Ben goes to jail, and you get like a kind of like Barry Allen dad situation.
You beat me to it, I was gonna say, yeah.
And so Uncle Ben is in jail, and Peter like is homeless, and he just like runs away. Like he lives off of like stealing from grocery stores at night, and ultimately, like I think ultimately he becomes Spider-Man. But Uncle Ben teaches him about great power, great responsibility. But like it's silly because Uncle Ben basically decides like we're gonna clean up this city, and so Uncle Ben becomes like a microchip where Uncle Ben is driving in the battle van, and he's like, Peter, there's like Mysterio's attacking the city on 12th, like come on. And so basically the idea is that like Peter deals with his responsibility immediately, and because Uncle Ben's there to help him.
Right.
So he doesn't so he's not as quippy or as funny, and he's not as neurotic. So he's more willing to like make real decisions the way human beings would, where he's like, I can't be a Spider-Man right now. My wife needs me to do something. So like he hooks up with Mary Jane and stuff like that. Like it's a whole thing, but it basically is a happy ending.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's cute. That's also another one where they dropped the Watcher angle. It was two nerds in a comic book store who were talking to each other, and that's where the narration comes from.
Ah.
And then one of them says, like, what happens then? He goes, I don't know. What do I look like? The friggin' Watcher? And you're like, what the hell's happening here? What if Ulysses actually mattered in the Civil War too? Says Heartless Fang. Good question.
We may never know, Heartless Fang.
Yeah, we'll never know. Bendis is gone. No one cares. There's no one interested in playing with Marvel cosmology enough to make Ulysses either a joke or a key player.
He literally went back to his home planet.
Yeah. Grievous-ish got time to throw in a quick one before work. Only one I've read, but it was pretty good. What if Captain Marvel hadn't died?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And I don't remember reading that one, but I do remember, like, there's so many. There's, like, hundreds of those books.
Another idea they played with in Captain Marvel, Carol's Infinity tie-in, we basically get to see a universe where she got the cancer instead of the original Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I'm sure that was depressing.
It was, but it was kind of uplifting too, because he's like, you were the best of us, Carol. You were such a hero. You were willing to take the blast for me that gave me the cancer.
Yeah, still cool. What was it? Jam Call X. What if Super Skrull was good and Marvel was bad? And Marvel was bad?
Oh,
I'm down for that.
That is kind of interesting. Again, as we've said before on this show, Skrulls get painted with a really crappy brush, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. And it would be interesting to see like Super Skrull being treated basically like a Klingon kind of, I'm a warrior that's like forced out of my homeworld, and what am I gonna do? Terror of Death. I still like Avengers Next Generation movie. I would still like to see more of them in the comics. Bendis used them in a big bad way, and then you never saw them.
He did.
Will.i.am Golden, what if Uncle Ben became Captain America? I love that idea.
That'd be adorable.
That is such a great idea. Because you could play with the pathos of Spider-Man, of Peter Parker being like, I can never live up to the legacy of my uncle.
Exactly. And you got to wonder, too, where it's like, yeah, that would be something, where his metaphorical father figure is literally Captain America.
Exactly. There were a bunch of, basically every other What If was a Spider-Man book.
What if Peter Parker, now I'm just remembering one, what if he stayed as like a wrestler celebrity guy and never became a superhero?
Yeah, that's a fun one.
And J. Jonah Jameson like really hated him and tried to take him down through the press and everything, and like Daredevil got involved.
Exactly. No, that's a cool concept in general. What was it? The one where it was, what if Gwen Stacy had survived? Basically, it flips the script and makes J. Jonah Jameson the big villain. Norman and like Harry reconcile, Peter and Gwen get married, and then they give Jonah his information. So like Jonah shows up at the wedding and says like, I know you're Spider-Man, you're under arrest. And it's just it's so Spider-Man, it's quintessential.
It's real easy to make him a villain in stories, isn't it?
Yeah. Supermaning, What If the Next Generation sounds dope. What issue was it? It's just the last one from What If Volume 1. I'll have to look it up. I'll try to find it while we're talking. But oh crap, there's a great one that has like a crappy foil cover and it was what if the Hulk killed Wolverine?
Oh yeah. Or wasn't it the other way around? What if Wolverine killed the Hulk?
There's a couple of them, but the one I'm talking about is what if Hulk killed Wolverine, and it's like it's just weird, and it involves like stories that I just never friggin' read. By the way, it was what if 114. What if Secret Wars 25 years later? That includes the Next Generation of Heroes. But yeah, like it was so weird. And the art was like really like gross and interesting. I really dug it, but it was like bizarre.
There's also a whole like cottage industry of X-Men what ifs that are like, what if blank got the Phoenix Force?
Oh yeah, what if blank didn't die? What if blank got the Phoenix Force? What if blank was revived like yeah, no, totally. It's just
what if blank led the blank?
Yeah, what if Gambit was killed by Magneto, or whatever. I don't remember. No, Marrow. Marrow kills Gambit in some friggin' issue. You're like, Marrow? Get out of here.
What if Magneto took over America?
Oh, there was one like the X-Men Asgardian War. Like, what if the X-Men decided to stay in Asgard and become gods? And I'm like, that'd be cool.
That sounds like a what if.
Yeah. Oh, there's one that I got from like not an estate sale, but like a fan actually gave me their whole entire collection. And it included one of these what ifs that I always wanted, which was what if Rogue possessed the hammer of Thor?
Oh.
And it sucks. It's so
couldn't live up to it.
Yeah, it's just not interesting. It's like it's just a bunch of crap.
That's unfortunate.
I'm looking at the issue where Wolverine is killed by the Hulk. By the way, it's what if number 50. And it involves like it involves the adversary in the guise of Naze the Shaman.
Okay.
The Uncanny X-Men number 225, which is a story that I did not read and is just like bizarre. Yeah, that was also the era where the Hulk, if he was like if he was in the sun, he would turn back into Banner.
Right.
Like a werewolf.
Because that's how it works, even though in the Immortal Hulk now he seemingly does turn into the Hulk by night, so maybe this one also came to pass.
Yeah, and that'd be fine. Like, I guess that's a neat concept you can play with for now.
Chad had a good one, too. What if Wolverine never did one for Morph?
They should do like an X-Men Adventures one where it's like, what if Morph didn't die? Like, what if Beast was killed instead of Morph? Because like Beast didn't do anything in the whole show because he went to jail instead.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Let me just see. With the Terror of Death, what if the Cancerverse never happened? So like, what if like Thanos and Nova didn't die or didn't not die or whatever?
If Cancerverse didn't happen, then yeah, Nova would stick around, but then we also wouldn't have gotten a lot of really cool cosmic stories.
That's true. DM0M0 sequel episode where you pitch your own what ifs. I agree.
I mean, we kind of have been.
We kind of have been like over time. It's tough. Like it would have to be. Like I'd really need to like generate a couple of really sweet pitches.
I tried to write some pitches only to be like, oh shit, most of these have already happened.
That's the thing. There's also, it's funny, like how many you mentioned a while back, like about prominent creators working on books. There was one book that had like that was unprecedented. Like nowadays, people are like, I want to do a thing. Like I want to do a cool like what if story. But back in like I wanted to say the 80s, like right after they killed Elektra. Frank Miller did his like Elektra died story. He was like, I need to write and draw what if Elektra had survived. So like you basically get an alternate version of the book you read because Frank Miller did the book, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
Like and by the way, it's solid. What's funny is like then he had to resurrect Elektra, so like he had to kind of go back and undo the cooler idea he had in the story, but you know, whatever, I guess. Another one that stands out to me that was one of my absolute favorites was what if the Punisher became Captain America?
Oh, which again they kind of did for a minute.
Yeah, they did. Oh no, in Civil War when he picks up the mask, I'm like, hey, I remember
it's a cool
this. Suit. Basically, just the idea being that like, I think Steve gets like permanently injured in a horrible explosion or something.
Yeah.
And so they, like, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D., like, go to the U.S. government, and they're like, ask Frank Castle. He's basically the best soldier we've got. And he's like, no. And so they ask, like, John Jameson and Doc Samson and a bunch of other random people. Polls. Yeah, and basically we just, like, watch them all lose and die. And then Frank's family is killed, so he accepts the job.
I would be really interested nowadays with, like, everything we've seen with the super soldier serum, especially the stuff from the movies, where it's like, oh, it brings out whatever's inside of you, to put that in Frank Castle, to be like, okay, what's really inside of you? Are you a murderous, remorseless psychopath, or is there actually something worthwhile inside you?
Right, exactly. By the way, the what if Punisher had become Cap? He is Cap during the day, and at night he is the Punisher.
He just pulls double duty.
And people are like, and so people are like, hey, Frank, what the hell are you doing? Like, you have to stop being the Punisher. You're freaking out. And he's like, screw you. Like, no.
Can't do it.
And then they send Steve Rogers after him.
Nice.
And Steve Rogers puts on the Captain America suit and, like, kicks the shit out of Frank. And he's like, you've got to be Captain America. And he's like, what are you talking about, man? Like, you're Captain America. And he, like, reveals that, like, most of him is cybernetics now, like, to keep him alive. And he's like, Captain America has to be flesh and blood. Like, I am not Captain America. And so,
can't be more machine than man, twisted, evil.
So Frank decides to be Captain America. Like, he chooses to do that. And Steve becomes the captain in a weird brown suit. It's weird. But it's a fun story. It's great. It's perfect. It's quintessentially What If. Also, the art isn't terrible.
That's good.
Tevia, what if Injustice happened in the Marvel Universe? I don't think they would be allowed to do that, but you could definitely do something like that.
I'm shocked they haven't tried to pitch something like that in a video game or in a digital comic or something.
There's something kind of like that going on right now in Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, I guess so.
Where it's Civil War, and what if it didn't end, and what if someone else decided to end it?
It becomes Road Warrior is what it becomes.
It's really cool, so check that one out. Tales from Island Z, what if Spider-Man villain Sandman was Dream from that's funny. They'd never do it now.
I think the legality of that one would be a little hard, but it would be fun to see.
It's true. The Safari Zone, what if Axis never switched back? That one, I'm surprised.
That's a fun one. That's a fun choice where villains stayed good and heroes stayed bad.
Exactly. No, I like that idea. At the very least, to, like, cut to later.
And we'd have more heroic carnage, which I actually thought was a really fun little diversion there for a bit.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. And he wanted a big, disgusting statue of himself and everything. Yeah.
Oh, big golden statue with rhinestones that plays Freebird 24/7.
Okay, Cletus.
I love his redneckiness goes up and down depending on who's writing it.
Yeah, like when he was invented, it didn't exist at all.
Yeah.
And then, like, over time, they're like, no, let's do it. Let's do our own. Let's do another. Let's make him more stupid.
But his name is Cletus, though. A guy like Cletus would talk like this.
You gotta have the stupid voice.
Hey, Brandine, I got you some new work shoes.
I can't scuff up the Topples dance and run away.
Exactly. See, that's the Cletus Cassidy we need. Cletus the slack-jawed yokel carnage.
Right? Oh, God. Jam Call X, what if Absorbing Man lived and became a big hero?
Oh, like man.
Red Samurai, what if Spider-Man became an X-Man? Yeah, what if they were like, it's mutants. He's a mutant, as it turns out.
Sure, come hang out at the school.
The one that I didn't get a chance to talk about was Mike Wieringo's last book, which was what if the new Fantastic Four basically stuck around. And that was fun. And then it was so much fun, I was like, let's do the sequel on The Good, Bad, and Ugly, which is a show we do on our channel here, which was what if the new Fantastic Four 2, where basically the new Fantastic Four, which is to say Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, and the Hulk, but they trade out Ghost Rider because he didn't want to write about Ghost Rider, and made him Iron Man because Iron Man was popular. Basically, what if they ended Infinity Gauntlet? And I think it's really fun, but they hated it. So check out that episode to find out more about that. But, like, yeah, New Fantastic Four 2, but I did like the other New Fantastic Four 1. But yeah. They reminded me of another one, which was what if War Machine had not destroyed the living laser?
Oh.
Okay, so What If was a great entry-level book for a lot of people because, like, I didn't even know who the hell some of these people were. Like,
True.
When I picked up that book, I didn't know. I had passing familiarity with War Machine. I didn't know who the Living Laser was. And the best part of What If War Machine had to destroy or had not destroy the Living Laser, it was a choose-your-own-adventure book.
Oh, shit.
And there were 3 different endings.
Wicked.
And they were all really fun and satisfying, and you got to pick your own, and best of all, written by Dan Slott, so it's actually pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Really, really solid one.
That does sound cool.
I mean, basically, what's it called? I was gonna say Secret Wars is just a whole bunch of What If series.
It really, really was, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 2015 one. And apparently, you know, apropos the somebody asking about what if, were there any what ifs that like became a thing?
Many.
There's one which was, I think, like, what if Wolverine was Lord of Vampires? And in that one, it is Doctor Strange inside the body of the Punisher. I think we saw that in one of those Secret Wars books.
We sure did. That was the overrunning thing. What is it? That he had his soul inside him.
Yeah, exactly. So you got that already. Liam Gibbons, what if Doom beat Richards at the end of Secret Wars? Again, where the hell is that one?
I imagine things would get really boring after that.
And Mr. Roboto has one for you. What if Cletus and Roy Harper crossover?
I like your trucker cap. I like your cut-off dungarees, son. Let's go trucking. That'd be the whole story.
Yeah, be depressing.
Be sure to throw your beer bottles at street signs.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the concept of what if is super fun. And a little self-indulgent. You know, it's like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and I don't want to deal with continuity, so I'm just going to, like, and I'm going to take glaringly huge leaps in logic to get to my concept. But at the same time, not bad. You get to see cool things like the Punisher being Venom.
Yes, that was another one. That was a no-brainer.
Written by Kurt Busiek, so, like, that's cool, too. Like, another prominent creator going, like, I want to do this. A lot of neat ideas. We will have to do one, though, where we just, like, come up with, like, dynamite pitches. Just, like, our top 5 pitches.
Absolutely. It's harder than I think. I came up with a couple here. I'm just like, and I have no idea where I go from outside the pitch.
Yeah. Oh, before we go, I do want to remember the what if no one was watching The Watcher? There's a huge story in which, God, I think it's Eternity. I don't remember. But basically, for Galactus's crimes, he is transformed into a human and stranded on Earth. Right? Okay, so that's a neat idea. You could actually do that story, right? Like,
that's
Galactus
a pretty
is
solid
now in
pitch.
the body of a person. It's Elvis.
Oh.
And he lands in Graceland.
Oh.
And he is found by a huge Elvis fan, like this girl. And his Galactus hunger never stops. So he's just constantly eating cheeseburgers.
Eating peanut butter and banana fried sandwiches.
Right. And so the idea is that, like, he basically, Elvis returns.
Right.
And then Adam Warlock shows up, and he's like, a great wrong has been done to you, and he, like, gives him his memories back, and he's like, you can choose to be the devourer of worlds, or you can stay here and be the king. And then he does.
Of course he does, because everyone wants to be the king.
And then the Watcher is like, well, that's it for this episode of What If, and while I am, because, like, it ends with Galactus Elvis playing a song, or doing a concert. The Watcher is at the concert, and he's turning to the camera, and he says, like, from now on, I want to be known as the listener, because he's listening to the freaking show. You're like, this is really dumb. How much was this issue? What did I blow on this issue?
Yeah,
$2,
really.
Damn it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I bought that back in the day.
Yeah. Like, there's one in the chat. It's not a super chat, but I won't. But I just won't have to read it. What if Joel and Matt stayed at Comic Cast?
Man, things would be very different, is what they would be.
For all involved.
For everybody. You might not be getting this show right now. Who knows?
Yeah. No.
Also, I might not even be podcasting anymore. I might have gone back to school and gotten a real job.
Yeah. Well. That being said, I guess we should. Do you have any other favorite ones that you want to mention before we wrap up?
Again, another one from the chat there. So much Southern Joel today. Yeah, agreed, Flashpool. That would be what if Joel was from the South? It would probably be exactly like this, just more silly voices.
It'd be very similar. you would own a truck.
Yeah. Hey, Sal, you know what? We're going to talk about them what-if stories today. Man, I sure do love them.
I'd be like, this is amazing. As it stands, it's still pretty great. I'll take the Canadian Joel.
Oh, thanks, E.
Yeah, I would never have gone to Fan Expo, certainly.
Yeah, that would have been something. I'm surprised no one mentioned that. What if Joel lived in Jersey? I imagine there'd be way more crossovers between ComicPOP and Cape Joel.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you lived in Jersey, you would have just moved here. I mean,
I'd be eating more pork roll and visiting more diners.
This is very true. And the Terror of Death is super chat, which we will address at the end of the show. So we want to thank you all so much for hanging out with us and watching, and we will see you guys next time with another episode of the Elseworlds Exchange. Thank you so much for Joel for joining me, and we'll see you guys.
Always a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. The Terror of Death asking, let me change this up here. Joel, what exactly happened to you in ComicPOP?
Oh, I've told this story a million times. It was just my time to go, honestly. It was time for me to be my own thing. I was Robin, but I want to be Nightwing.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
probably
that's a nice
Batman.
way to put it. I was Robin, but I wanted to be Nightwing.
You can't be a boy wonder forever.
Was it? It wasn't nearly as dramatic as the Batman
No.
Robin breakup.
No, it wasn't old wounds. It wasn't things change.
Yeah.
Punch. I wish it was. That would have been cooler.
That would be cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as it stands, it's still probably better that that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just slug arming.
Yeah. Things change.
Things change.
And I'm gonna wear a costume that shows off my ass in every panel.
Because it's phenomenal.
I'm also gonna have like a mullety thing, kind of, that I kind of make look cool, even though it's 1990 something.
Yeah, people are really just forcing it to work. People want it to work more than it does work.
Then it actually works. Like, no, everything's coming back. If if flannel shirts can make a comeback, mullets can make a comeback. Nah.
No. Unequivocally no.
Big no.
But we want to thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Don't forget, by the way, to stay tuned for more. Is today Wednesday?
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh,
crazy.
Crap, I gotta release back issues. I am not on the right schedule, man.
It's been a crazy week. Almost nothing came out this week, too, in comics.
No, I was reading Justice League. It was good.
I read Tom King's Batman first because I'm a masochist.
Yeah, I didn't bother. I don't read it. I don't read that book anymore.
It's not as bad. It's Batman. It's kind of a what if. What if Batman had to do jury duty?
Right, yeah. Neat idea. Neat pitch. We'll see if it's, we know who did it.
It's a neat pitch, but he has to ignore like a million things. Like he tries to meet it off at the pass by being like, Bruce Wayne, some people think, you'd be biased on this jury, because you've worked with Batman on the past. I'm like, not just work for him, like actually giving him weapons and technology before.
That's true.
Also, too, it's a case against Mr. Freeze. How many times has Mr. Freeze stolen Wayne tech, attacked Wayne galas, done this, that, and the other thing? He should be nowhere near this.
Yeah, I agree. Also, hey, rich people can buy themselves out of jury duty, everybody.
They often do, but Batman's like, no, I need a chance to get away from Batman because Catwoman broke my heart. This is like my weird little self-vacation. Dick, you be Batman for a bit.
Yeah.
Which the Dick stuff is actually pretty good because I think Tom King weirdly has more respect for Dick Grayson than he does Batman.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, like Dick in the bat suit is actually enjoyable.
Yeah, I do. Apparently he does yell his own name at Killer Croc, though.
Yes, he does. While on the phone. But it's Waylon Jones. No one's going to listen to him.
You're a gross Killer Croc.
I heard the Batman say his name.
Yeah, well, you're a...
Yeah, really. You don't know anything.
Yeah, well, you're a gross crocodile man. I don't trust you. Anyway, we'll catch you guys later. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye.